Welcome back, everyone. This is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, here with another hero breakdown video. Now, the last two videos that I've done have been focused entirely around infantry and my favorite type of infantry, focusing on garrison commanders. So I thought I would step away from that and do one of the more versatile commanders, and probably one that you should be working on, whether you're a spender, free to play player, or just overall want to do fairly well in just about any event that you do. And that hero is Lee. Now, as usual, I will be breaking down this video into four parts. I will go over their skills, how they are intended to be used, different talent builds that you can use, and optimal pairings for this hero. Without further ado, let's get into the skills. As you can see, I haven't had a lot of time to work with Lee, considering I'm an infantry commander. Primarily, Lee is more of a support character for me, but thankfully, you only need two of his skills to be truly good as a support for him. His first skill, Rage Required 1000, deals damage to up to 5 targets in a fan-shaped area, damage factor 3800, and then reduces the attack, defense, and HP of those targets by 30% for 2 seconds. The fan for this is about a 90-degree angle centered in front of him. So he's going to have about 45 degrees on one side, 45 degrees on the other. So make sure you're using proper positioning when using this hero, because if you can get 5 targets in his fan-shaped area, that 30% debuff is insane. Plus, being at 3800 damage factor puts him squarely as one of the highest damage dealing commanders in the game. There are only a couple I can think of that do more straight damage than him, which would be Lewis and maybe Chun if you can get her skills up properly. Second skill increases squad's damage dealt to zombies by 8% up to 25%, and then heals some lightly wounded units after killing zombies up to 3800. Considering I don't do as much zombie killing as I would like, this one isn't as important to me. I still use him. Having a heal factor on a commander when you're out killing zombies is important, because you do not want to have to go back. It costs you more stamina if you go back to your shelter and then head back out again. So if you want to go with zombies, you'll get to this eventually, but this is not his most important skill. This is arguably his least important skill. This is the skill I upgraded second. When leading 2 or more troop types, increases squad attack by 24%. Now, it does say when leading 2 or more troop types, so he's not going to be one you focus one troop type with. However, if you need a march that contains the remnants of your troops, say you already have an infantry, a cavalry, and a archer squad on the field, you can have Lee cover the extras and still have them do a good amount of damage, and that debuff from his first skill still comes into play. Another thing a lot of people do is have their primary troop type be 99% of his troops, and then have the other 1% be a second troop type just to activate this ability. It won't activate certain troop type related skills or talents such as infantry guard, for example, because they have to be leaving only infantry. But if you have commanders that don't focus a specific troop type and you just want the best troops on the field, you can do that. Personally, in Arena, I run him with 99% infantry troops and the rest of them riders and ranged. And finally, for his last skill, reduces counter damage taken by 6% and increases rally capacity by 5%. Again, this is up to 14 and 12% respectively. Counter damage on someone who is potentially able to lead rallies, and he can lead hive rallies fairly well, is good, because you're going to be taking a lot in counter damage from large amounts of troops. And increasing rally capacity of those troops is just a straight 12% increase to all of their stats. Again, not as good as in the squad attack because you will be using Lee in open field quite a bit, but it'll be the last one. It'll be the third one that you upgrade, in my opinion. And finally, when you awaken him, it increases his damage factor to 4,600, a nice 800 point jump from 3,800 on an AoE attack, and reduces the attack, defense, and HP by an additional 5%. So you have a 35% debuff as well as over 20,000 points of damage if he hits 5 targets. It's incredible how many people don't realize how much damage Lee can do. But even with Lee leading and not having the additional debuffs from another commander, he is still one of the strongest heroes for AoE combat in the game. Now, as far as his uses, he has a wide variety of uses. His adventure skills are fairly good. They aren't the best, but having something with an amazing amount of HP to absorb hits on a 5-second delay is very helpful. He is a pretty decent frontline tank. He has about twice as much HP as his puppets do. He does an okay amount of damage, and he hits multiple targets at close range. But primarily, you're going to be using him as a debuff leader or as a lead commander to another heavy damage commander. And I'll go over those pairings later on. Now, as far as his talents, you will be using him to lead. So personally, I like to go in and pick up the additional rage. Having 180 rage after using skills, 90 times 2, does cut that skill cycle down by quite a bit. When squads take skill damage, they have 50% chance to reduce skill damage by 6% for the next 3 seconds. This helps in large group combat. This is the last one that I usually pick up. As you can see, I only have it 2 out of 5 here. But I like having him have the ability to move around and be able to take less damage when he can. Because I'm already using him with other troops, I go ahead and have half of that 1% I mentioned earlier be riders and the other be ranged to activate a 5% buff to both his defense and his attack. I don't really like having this one because I don't use him in rallies. I use other commanders in rallies. So having this one does absolutely nothing for me. But if you go this route, it's an additional 3% to attack, defense, and HP. It's not as good as troop-specific ones, but it's something. All in all, his talents aren't where he shines. It's definitely that first and third skill where he gets his most use. And finally, what commander should you pair him with? My personal choice, once I get him upgraded more, is Lewis. I currently have Lewis at 5111 because, again, I'm an infantry commander. But I cannot ignore this amount of damage. Deals damage up to 5 enemy squads in the fan-shaped area. It's the same fan-shaped area as Lee before he's awakened. When he's awakened, it's in a circular area. But same fan-shaped area, so he's going to be hitting probably the same targets that Lee just hit and applied a debuff to. And those squads get hit for, if I remember correctly, around 4,200 for 5 squads, factoring in the 15% reduction. And when fully awakened, it's somewhere around 4,800. I'll have to come back and do the math on that, and I'll leave the correct answer to those in the comments below. But having Lee reduce the defense and HP of your targets and then follow up with Lewis's incredible damage is insane. Not to mention, any other secondary commanders you happen to be using with other squads in the area will also take advantage of that debuff while it's up. Let's say you don't have Lewis. and you want to be able to still dish out that AoE damage. Some people like to choose a Chemi for that. Sorry, I clicked on the wrong one. A Chemi here has a nice 3 squad AoE, focuses ranged squads, so they're going to deal a lot more damage. And if she happens to have slowed them or they've been slowed by anyone else, gets another additional attack buff to that. My personal favorite on a budget is Charlie. Charlie is easy to awaken and deals damage to 5 enemies in a fan shaped area for 4,000, which is just under Lee's awakened at 4,600. And Charlie gets that amazing rage generation buff. With Lee's 180 from just using skills, Charlie getting another 250 for hitting the same enemies, and any additional rage that they get from attacking and being attacked puts them at a skill cycle of about 5 to 6 seconds. So you're dealing this AoE damage very quickly compared to your enemies. And with that, that's everything I have to say about Lee. Again, if you're a free to play player and you're not using Lee, you probably want to start looking at him as either a support or a lead commander to another heavy damage unit in your arena team on the open field, or just to fill in any gaps in your squads that need that little bit of extra oomph from his debuff. And with that, this is Mr. Brain, your friendly neighborhood gaming dad, signing off.